What's up, people? Guess what? It's another episode of The Giants Guys. It's that podcast that you love to hate, and we are back. Not only are we back on YouTube, we are back on Twitter, folks. So now I've got two channels for you people that I love so much. And thanks for watching and tuning into another episode of The Giants Guys. I already see, Joseph Clark and Mark Thompson in the room, so thanks, guys, for jumping on early. We of course, The Giants Guys is brought to you by Play Pickup. Make sure you go to nygiantsrush.com and play your favorite Giants props today. You can't go wrong, basically, because there's so much to lose. It's really hard to lose on these props right now because everything's going in the Giants' favor. We're back in the lab. I've got, of course, the truth. I've got Mikey Fresh, and the first time I got Mr. Payne himself, Zane. What's going on?
Glad to be here.
Yeah, how are you guys all doing? Everybody's good? Oh, look, you got your espresso going. All right.
Double espresso. It's a special night.
Boom. It is a special night here, guys. We appreciate you dropping in the lab with us and hanging out live on Twitter, live on YouTube. Gentlemen, the New York Giants season is finally over. It was a rough year. Today, we've got some breaking news, which we're going to cover in a couple minutes about Joe Judge. We already know about Gettleman. You all right over there, Truth? Listen,
yeah, I'm okay. A little bit of a cough.
We need you for the draft, Michael Stewart, so don't keel over just yet. The season ends. It's 4-13. Gentlemen, it's been some of the worst football I have ever seen. I've played a lot of football. I've coached a lot of football. I've covered a lot of football. It's some of the worst football I've ever seen. The Giants are very, they're dysfunctional from the top down. Today was definitely a swift strike on Joe Judge. Yesterday we got the retirement from Dave Gettleman. And I will tell you that I feel better today than I did yesterday. Yesterday, I felt, guys, a little like I was being played a little bit again. So we're not even really going to get into, Giants, Washington. There's really not a lot to say. There's really not. There wasn't really much of a game there except for one nice, throw wide open that Fromm threw to Slayton. There's really not a whole lot to talk about. So if you want to recap Washington Giants, hit me up on Twitter. We can always break open the all-22 film and we can do it that way. But for this purpose only, we've got a couple things that we want to talk about. Actually, a lot of things. Guys, I'm going to do something called a 2-minute drill. I want to kind of give you guys each 2 minutes. I'm going to put you on the clock, and I just want you to kind of recap a little bit on what you thought of maybe something good. I know that's hard. Something good, something bad in the season, and I'm going to have to cut you off at 2 minutes because I want you to stick to the 2-minute mark so we don't go chasing rabbits down the rabbit hole. All right, so here's your 2-minute drill. Everybody gets 2 minutes. That's the worst of 2021. So let's recap it. Michael Stewart, if you're not going to die on me. I'm starting you on the clock right now. Give me the best and the worst of 2021.
Okie dokie. Okay, the best. Andrew Thomas. I think he took another step towards being a legit left tackle. Ojulari, he had a pretty good rookie year. I think he finished with 8 sacks this year. And also the X-Man, McKinney. I think he also took a next step up. So you got 3 young players right there that you could build around. Now for the worst, and this will be quick. The total lack of production by the offense. That was probably the most pathetic offense I've seen since the 70s.
Wait, you did all that in 38 seconds.
Excellent. We could divvy up the
I
rest of the time.
I give Fresh more time.
You yield to the speaker from New Jersey.
At the time.
Yeah. All right, Mikey Fresh, give me I'm putting you on the clock. I'm not actually giving you the truth's time.
That's fine.
But I'd like to know, give me, again, it was a difficult year, Fresh, right? Just recap it a little bit. I mean, 2 minutes is longer than you think. recap a couple of things that maybe surprised you were good. And then, of course, the obvious, you could pick 1,000 things out of the bag about bad. You're on the clock.
Cool. What we'll do is we'll start with the positives because there isn't that many of them. Start with the good. We have the 5th and the 7th overall pick because of the way that we and the Bears finished the season. And we have a ton of draft capital. Also, the good, you touched on it, specifically with Andrew Thomas and Xavier McKinney. McKinney was hurt last year as a rookie and didn't play until the end of the year, and he only played a handful of games. Mm-hmm. Thomas was healthy last year, so he played all 16 games last year, or most of the games last year. He may have missed some, so my apologies. Each of them respectively, in the first 8 games that they each played, they looked like complete draft busts of epic proportions. And then in the second, since that moment, for Thomas, it was the middle of last season. And for Xavier McKinney, it was probably October of this year. From the time that they each got 8 games under their feet wet, they look like absolute studs that they could be elite level players at their position. So that's positive moving forward. Aside from that, there's not much. So now we go to the negative. Coming into the year, we all said this is a make or break season for Daniel Jones.
You got 30 seconds.
We sit here right now, and we're really in no different position than we were last year. Last year, we needed to get him a better line. We needed to get him weapons. This year, because of all of the injuries and the way that the season unfolded, we still didn't get like a true full season evaluation of Daniel Jones. So there still needs to be decisions to be made there. The coaching staff, as it turns out, we'll probably touch on that in a little bit, but top to bottom, it was a disappointment. We were all excited about it, and it just fell through. Players that were drafted the previous 2 seasons that were supposed to take steps forward didn't happen. And all in all, the results, it's a results-driven business, and you go with 4-13, there's plenty of blame to go around.
You were over by 8 seconds, just so you know.
Deal.
Well, he still got the truth time, right?
That's true. Yeah, it's true. All right, so Zane, you're new to the crew. Let's get a nice, strong opinion out of you. And just so you know, I want to, Danny's in the room, Joe's in the room, Kevin Mack's in the room, Mark's in the room. We got guys rolling in here. Thanks, guys. I'm going to get to your questions in a little bit. Just hang in there. Invite some friends to hang out with us. Zane, it's a tough year to recap because pretty much everything that you wanted to have happen didn't happen, right? And the things that did happen, most of them, 9 out of 10 of them were bad, right? There were some really large things that impacted the Giants this year, and all of them were bad. I think Michael Stewart and Mikey Fresh both touched on, McKinney and Thomas being like the only 2 shining spots, and it really has got a lot of truth to that. There wasn't a whole lot of extra things. So I love to hear your perspectives. You're new in the room, and you're going to bring some fresh takes. Put you on the clock. Just however you want to roll. Whether you do an overarching, what happened in 21, or if you want to do players. But I'd love to hear your take. So you are now officially on the clock.
Awesome. So I think the fellas have already hit on the positive as far as personnel goes. I heard Ojulari in there. He flashed. Not in love with him. I still think that first step is a little slow, but it'll get better with time, right? Rookie season, dysfunctional organization, questionable locker room based off what players are saying from numerous sources. So as far as good goes, there's a handful of players. But I think the best thing that happened this season is twofold. Joe Judge's rant, and then Joe Judge's offense, which ran 2 QB sneaks on 2nd and 3rd down. And the reason that is good for me is that is what seals his fate. The amount of backlash that took place across the sports world at that point. Aaron Rodgers was shitting on McAfee's show today on the podcast about the Giants. He took a shot at us. Every player took a shot at us.
What did Rodgers say?
Rodgers said that he would never run. They were asking a question about what he would do in a scenario. And he just took a jab that, well, I'll tell you what I would never do. I would never run a sneak on 3rd and something backed up on my own 4 because that wouldn't fly. So
that's exactly what he said. He was like,
right.
If Matt called that in, that would not fly.
Right.
What if Jake Fromm was his quarterback?
Still wouldn't. Jake Fromm could have walked it for all I care.
I'm playing.
But at that point, that's the best thing that happened in my opinion, because the whole organization from top down needs a complete wash, and that was the start of it. The amount of backlash is part of it. Apparently, Steve Tisch has finally woken up and got his voice going and working and flew over from Hollywood, and he's kind of the push apparently that got Joe Judge out the door, from what I'm hearing. So my good is actually a bad. The bad is turning into good, where I feel like we're going to get hopefully a little bit of a cleanse and do this thing the right way.
Love it. And you left 15 seconds left for me. So I'll just kind of recap the years. Like, I had a lot of high expectations because on paper the Giants looked like they were a team that was going to be able to compete. Maybe we went into the year with this 10 the floor was our kind of our mantra, because on paper they looked like a good team, and ever since camp the team just fell apart one by one. I think overall the best thing that we got out of it was, in a time of turmoil, you did have a couple players show that they wanted to play ball. And as much as McKinney had a really nice year, I kind of got a bad taste in my mouth when he dropped that interception this week, because it felt to me more like, and I can't even put my finger on it, but I know Fresh says he has the potential of being an elite player. An elite player would have made that interception. Like, it almost looked like he didn't want to try that much more to hold on to that ball. Like, he seems a little flashy. If it's a too hard of a play, he doesn't want to put that much effort into it. He reminds me of a business decision guy. Like, hey, I don't want to get hurt. If I drop this, no big deal. So I'm not overly enthused with McKinney as much as a lot of people are. He's talented as can be, but I think if he really put 100% into playing safety, he could be the best safety in football. But I don't see that, that out of him. You know what I'm saying? And I know that probably sounds a little far-fetched because we have a guy that, catches, interceptions, which is rare. Whoa, hang on. What did I just do? Oh, sorry. Hit the wrong button. The other thing is but Thomas and Ojulari to me are young guys that have nothing, nowhere to go but up, right? I think with the right coaching, McKinney will go up. And there's a handful of other guys, even like a guy like Roche, who just comes in out of nowhere, has some potential. So you found some guys. Roche. Yeah, like you found the guy, in this, so there's some small little wins. But overall, I mean, it's a disappointment, because I thought this entire team lacked effort just from top to bottom. So
yeah, I think we've talked about it before too. Gettleman has hit a couple of singles in the draft, and he's brought in a couple of B and C role players, but it's equated to 4, 5, and 6 win seasons because he hasn't hit the home run that we needed. He hasn't gotten immediate, like, franchise changing caliber player.
You know what, Fresh? You and I and the Truth have talked about this numerous times, that the number one problem with the New York Giants is that they have gone out to draft B-level players, and every franchise needs 3, 4, sometimes 5 A-level playmakers. When you look at the Steelers and you look how TJ Watt wrecks an offense, right? Or Chandler Jones, or on the offensive side, these guys like Adams or Hill. These guys are just massive playmakers, and the Giants don't have playmakers. So they're never going to be able to, be an elite team unless they have playmakers.
So now you're talking about the scouting. So maybe the new GM will see that. I mean, we could see changes in the scouting department.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, we were just talking about recapping. One of the other sides of this is that the players we thought were going to be players, once again turned out not to be players. All right, guys. So I will say this, and I want to make sure I say this to wrap up this type of this season. It was terrible, and we can bash it to death. There's so many other things to talk about because we have Gettleman to cover and we have Judge to cover. But one thing I'd like to say and maybe get your quick opinion on it is whether you love Daniel Jones or you hate Daniel Jones, the first thing that we have found out, guys, correct me or not, we found out that what the major difference is between Fromm and Glennon and Jones, right? Yeah. I mean, Jones the offense is an abomination, right? So even though a lot of people don't like Jones, think about what Jones did with that offense. And then when you subtract Jones from that offense and put in Glennon or put in Fromm, look how bad it is. What does that say about the quality of Daniel Jones? And again, you don't have to love him, but look at the difference between the guy who can make plays and the guy who can't. Fresh, what's your thought? Have you changed your thought process at all on Jones after seeing what unfolded?
No, I haven't changed because of that. What does it say about Jones? What does it say about Glennon and Fromm, quite frankly? I didn't think the drop-off would be as significant as it was when they were going into Glennon from Jones, and I was flat out wrong. But I think that when you have dysfunction around a quarterback by bad offensive schemes, poor offensive line play, these quarterbacks, if you're not a top quarterback in the league, like, you're just not going to thrive. You're gonna fall on your face. So as far as it goes with Jones, like, we've said this a lot. If you could take a big swing at a Russell Wilson, I would do that. Otherwise, I'm running it back with Jones and building through the draft. So,
Zane, real quick, any thoughts on Jones after seeing what unfolded before he was there and after he was there?
I like Jones. I don't think he's the guy, but I like him. Seems like a good guy, very tough, hard-nosed. I'm not going to question his toughness. Kid puts it all out there. But we've seen no growth. 3 years, he still can't hit intermediate. Still doesn't really get past his first read. I don't think coaches put him in a good position. I'm with Mikey Fresh on this. Unless you can get something really, really nice like a Russell, maybe, as much as Aaron Rodgers made fun of us today, maybe he can be swayed if Green Bay falls apart. Deshaun Watson's really my guy, but that all-field stuff isn't going to fly. But unless you get a guy like that, Jones then becomes your stopgap. You still have him under contract. There's no reason to trade him. No one's going to give you anything for him, really. So he becomes your stopgap if you want to move on. Make the team better. I believe he can be top 15. Top 15 will get you somewhere. No one's got number 1, number 2, number 3 guy. Top 15 will at least put you somewhere to get to that next step. Right now, we're at the bottom.
Yeah, that's very true. If you get a top 15 quarterback, he gets you to the playoffs, and a great defense will win you a championship.
You have a chance.
Truth. Any thought to Jones after you saw like what he was doing with a crappy offense, and then you didn't know how crappy it was until you had a bad quarterback?
Well, to be honest, it was not a shock to me after he went down that the Giants just totally did not win a single game after that. That just shows you that we do need a good backup quarterback definitely next year. And I still have faith in Jones. I know some of you guys don't, but I do. And I think if you put a wall in front of him and really give him a chance with a good offensive line, I think he will make the top 15. Like Zane said, I think he's good enough to be a top 15 quarterback. Absolutely.
Yeah. I actually compare him a lot to Ryan Tannehill, and I know like a lot of guys don't like Ryan Tannehill. The cat threw 4 touchdowns this weekend. I mean, since he's come to Tennessee, they've created an offense that works to Tannehill's skills.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, no, he's not Aaron Rodgers, right? He is not Patrick Mahomes, but you know what? Tennessee is a much better team with Ryan Tannehill than they were with Marcus Mariota, right? So if Jones can measure up to Tannehill, I'd have no problem with it. And as Zane just mentioned, Ryan Tannehill's a top 15 quarterback. So if Jones can get there, I'd have no problem with it. All right.
Ryan Tannehill, just to jump in real quick. Ryan Tannehill is a perfect example of a good quarterback or good enough quarterback in a really bad situation, and what happens. He's a great example of that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I'm going to recap my year for you in 1 minute or less. This is what I saw. This is what I saw this year with the Giants. Ready? Draft, Tony excitement. Camp, Shepherd fight. Cleats, Tony can't find any. Tony hurt. FanFest. Met some really cool people. Galladay hurt. Gates broken leg. Martinez ACL. Peppers ACL. Jones concussion. Tony explosion. Headphones malfunction. Kenny G hurt again. Saints win. No touchdowns. No vertical passing. Tony hurt again. Shepherd hurt again. Garrett fired. Kitchens abomination. QB sneak to set up the punt. Gettleman fired. That's basically what happened for the Giants in 2021. If you think anything else happened, well, then I probably fell asleep somewhere in between, because those bullet points basically summed up pretty much everything that happened. And it's sad to say that it happened, but I am excited, guys, for what direction the team is going to go in, because we've got nowhere to go but up. If we can get some young, energetic coaching, if we can get a very cerebral offensive coordinator, like I like to call an offensive nerd, and a head coach that's not. Listen, I'm going to bring this up because Zane brought it up, and it's such a great point. And truth, I said this to you earlier, and I might have said it to you last night on the phone, Mikey Fresh. Any head coach, who runs 2 quarterback sneaks to work on the field position for the punt has to be fired. Because when the reporter asked that question, why did you run? Why did you get into goal line package and run 2 quarterback sneak? His answer was this: I didn't want to have happen what it did in the Chicago game, where I was kicking out of the back of my own end zone, and it stuck with me for like a week, because I couldn't get past the fact is your job is to get a first down on 2nd down. Your job is to get a first down on 3rd down. Why would you just worry about the punt? Like, yes, it's a chess game, but you should be always thinking about forward progress, not about not playing for the punt and the defense. Like, otherwise just play defense and just let them have the ball and try to score. Like, so once he gave up on his players, once he gave up on his offense to run 2 quarterback sneaks, I mean, geez, Booker or Barkley, may have broke a play. You just never know. So knowing that he gave up on the team to run 2 quarterback sneaks, and by the way, gentlemen, what bothers me more than anything is that Freddie Kitchens would have not called those plays. The special teams coach that's still in Judge called those plays. So it's not Freddie Kitchens running the offense. It's still Jones. So you really know that if you bring another offensive coordinator in for Judge is just going to run roughshod over. Thoughts?
Oh, I agree.
It doesn't matter now because Judge isn't here. So
happily.
It might be fresh.
But yeah, that was Judge's thing, right? I didn't want a safety. You have 3 wins. It's the last game of the year. You've scored 9.9 points in the last 10 games. You're telling me you want to punt to avoid a safety. That's your move.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Right. So we're going to get into – I'm going to ask you guys about, the GM search. We're roughly going to get into that. Judge happened today, guys. I will tell you how it goes down. Being a season ticket holder, the Giants usually send me out a notice when it happens. When Gettleman resigned, the news had already been released that he resigned, and then I got the email. The interesting thing about today's firing of Joe Judge was I got the email exactly the time the news broke. Okay? The news broke at 5:45, and I got the email at 5:45. It was pretty interesting. They were pretty calculated in what they were doing. They kept it really close to the vest. And when it went out to the Twitterverse and the Adam, Schefters of the world and, all those guys, the email went out. So I felt much better about the franchise, at 5:45 than I did at 5:40, if that makes any sense. I'm going to really quick go through some of these questions, guys, because I got a bunch of them in here. I'll give them to each one of you guys. Let's see. Which one of these do we want to talk about? Joe Clark says, yeah, boring news day, nothing to talk about. Yeah, exactly. We've been waiting for days like this to have stuff to talk about. Let's see here. Danny says it's a clean slate, time to rebuild the right way. Finally, no doubt, Danny, that is 100% accurate. That now,
let's hope so.
Yeah. Here, look, he's still saying, any news today, boys? Oh, we got news, man. Joe Judge, is packed up his office. And listen, for the record, no one likes to see anybody lose a job. Got a family, all that stuff, but you paid handsomely to win games. And he took the special. Mikey Fresh, what'd you say to me last night? Too much special teams still in him, right?
Yeah, I think too. I mean, people say like rebuild the right way. You never want to force. It appears at least as if John Mara has forced a couple of football decisions throughout the years. It looks like he forced Garrett upon Judge. It looks like he forced an Eli rebuild upon Gettleman and Shermer. It appears that way. And if he was going to force Judge on a new GM, that would be wrong. I think that. So when people say it's the right way, it would have been okay to keep Judge if the new GM came in and wanted to keep Judge.
Agreed. All right, Truth, I'm going to give this to you. Joe Clark wants to know about Aaron Robinson. He says he's been looking good for a rookie who missed half the season. What was your thought about Aaron Robinson?
Yeah, he's another one that I didn't mention him because I didn't want to take the thunder out. Everybody else can have a shot at him, but he did. Once he got out of the IR, he did pretty well. I like him. I think he's a good player. So hopefully they can build up this for next year.
Where do you think he fits?
It looks like he played all over, but I think right now he's a regular cornerback, right? Just a plain quarterback usually. That's where he played the most. I saw him. So,
yeah, because remember next year they'll have Holmes come back, and
right.
Robinson's going to have to battle Holmes for that spot.
Well, they don't know who's going to come back. They don't even know what system they're going to be running. There's a lot of stuff to figure out.
Putting that aside, that the players.
Patrick don't come back, right? Patrick doesn't.
Yeah, come back. but we have to at least roll with the fact on who's under contract, right? So Darnay Holmes is still under contract. Aaron, what do you call it? Bradbury's still under contract. Like, all the DBs are still under contract, so you have to approach it like they're coming back, right?
A lot of dead money, yep.
Yeah, so, so Joe, we all kind of agree that, at least I think we all agree, that Robinson had a pretty decent year. He's very tough, right? He's definitely, he's scrappy. I don't think he has a lot of speed, like flat vertical speed, but I think he plays the underneath real well.
He's physical.
No, I wouldn't want to see him have to cover a burner down the sidelines, but in that mid-range routes, I think he's very tough. So yeah, Joe, he turned out to be probably a surprise, that we didn't talk about too much. Let's see, what does Steve Tisch was one who fell in full brown love with Judge. How we forget. Zane, do you remember all these guys saying that, that Judge was the guy? Like, is this something that rings a bell?
Well, we heard that from everybody. It wasn't just Tisch, right? When you hire a guy and no one's going to say, well, I didn't really like him, but my co-owner did, so I'm going to hire him.
Yeah.
It's going to be a united front. But in the background, there's been plenty of releases today that Steve Tisch is the one who made a compromise with John Mara that, look, the compromise last time was I always leave it to you. And again, the backlash has been unreal this offseason so far. That the compromise now was that Judge goes, GM comes in, GM decides, move a little bit hands off. So Steve Tisch has always come to the hill. And, we've talked about this too. Do the right thing, and then just kind of falls to the wayside back to California. He just falls into the back in Hollywood and says, well, I'll leave it to John Mara. And John Mara's dropped the bag too many times. So I don't particularly remember Steve Tisch individually coming out and saying, hey, Steve Tisch is my guy. I love him. I just remember the brass saying, this is our guy, green light from Belichick, blah, blah, blah. It really lead us to the right place. We're impressed. That's the usual spiel you get, right? We got the same thing with Shermer, right?
To that point, they should hire a GM and both the Mara and Tisch step back and let the GM do what he has to do.
100%.
Well, that's the big one right there. That's a biggie right there. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing where, even Craig, everyone said there's a sliver of hope, but I'm cautious with that hope because if John Mara is the guy making the decision, therein lies my problem. I don't trust him with football decisions.
Yeah, he definitely has been called. I spoke to someone kind of close to the team last week that said that John has an ego, and that he lets his ego get in the way, and he doesn't listen to some of the folks around him that are pretty smart football people. So that is an issue. I will say, when I look at yes, falling in love with Judge, I think Judge has what it takes, but he got in over his head I think a little bit with a handful of things, and one was having his hands in everything and not delegating, being too controlling. You know what I mean? He knows everything about everything, but he doesn't let anybody do their job.
Well, yeah. Let's call it like it is. The guy wasn't set up to succeed. The roster was bad. The scouting was bad. The organization's been dysfunctional for 10 years. Gettleman did a bad job, and he had a slew of injuries at key positions that no coach, I don't think Vince Lombardi, would have made a difference this season. With that said, it's an unfortunate business. Life isn't fair. The NFL isn't fair. Too many times teams move off quarterbacks and coaches way too early these days, but that's what you sign up for. So do I think he'll be a successful head coach if given another opportunity? I do.
Hey, look, the coach for Buffalo got ran out of Philadelphia. They were throwing rocks at him on the way out. They couldn't get him out. And now everybody's like, this is the new whiz kid, right? This is the new genius, coaches like Belichick fail in Cleveland. They do fail and they learn a lot. So Judge will bounce back. He's a good guy. He just happens to things that he happens to say, he can't back up.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off what Fresh said, right? Set up for failure. Again, confirmed reports that even Dave Gettleman wasn't banging the table for Andrew Thomas. It was Jason Garrett. Thank you, Jason Garrett, for that parting gift. He's the one who wanted Andrew Thomas. So if you have that level of dysfunction between people who know players and a scout who believes he knows better, and you're picking random people, that's where you end up here with these random players that don't fit, don't work.
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot, I think, in a lot of organizations. You have different scouts, coaches, and you have all these opinions. Not everyone's going to agree all the time. It's just a matter of ultimately when you have those differences, like what are you going to end up doing? Whose decision is it going to be? So
right, 100%, and that works when you have the doubles and the triples and the home runs. It doesn't work so much when you got nothing but singles.
Yeah, and that's true. Fresh, you were talking about a lot of singles, right?
Yep.
Hitting a lot of singles, maybe
or striking out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that too. A lot of strikeouts, but you can't win a World Series if we're going somehow. We got on this baseball track. You can't win a World Series by having only single and double hitters. You'd have to have your on base percentage better be pretty high. Your RBI totals better be pretty high. Like,
seriously,
you just can't do it. Like there's a place for home run hitters. There's places for guys that go from first to third. There's places for guys who steal bases. Like everybody, and they didn't have that ability because there were no home run hitters on the Giants. There were no closers. There was no Mariano Rivera on the Giants. There was no Derek Jeters on the Giants. Like, what I mean? It's a bunch of guys. Now, the guys that are the Derek Jeters and the Mario Riveras of the world, they're on injured reserve, and their names are Jabril Peppers and Gates and Blake Martinez. Your playmakers are all on injured reserve. So, yes, a lot of things didn't go Judge's way, but I think him being so stubborn and having his hands in too many pots definitely hurt him. This is kind of funny. Kev says he was looking for me on the on the Veranzo last week.
Arizona.
He's going to tell you if Arizona telling me that not to jump. It was bad, man. There was, Kev, you're right on. When I saw 2 back-to-back quarterback sneaks, I wasn't quite sure what to do with myself. Like I was like, I want to smash my TV. Like I want to go beat up an old lady. I want to throw I want to smash my car. I mean, all these crazy thoughts because you've just realized how bad your team is, and you're like, why am I torturing myself with this team? Like it's just that bad. So I wasn't quite on the Verrazano. That's a little too far, but I could probably get to the Ben Franklin Bridge or the Walt Whitman Ross a whole lot faster.
I'll meet you there, Craig.
Amazing.
Exactly.
I'll meet you there.
Me and Zane were going to jump off. He was going to pick a bridge. We were going to do rock, paper, scissors to who got the better bridge. All right, so
let's talk some GM candidates.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get one. I think there's one more question in here. Sam's killing. Sam says that Jones is a good backup, but not your star QB. Sam, I'll say this.
Shout out to my boy Sam.
That's one of your boys.
Glad you can join us. Shout out to my boy Sam for joining.
Thanks for hanging in, Sam. Appreciate you. You jumping in. And I'll say this to you. You know what? Jones doesn't have to be a star quarterback if he's got an offensive line and he's got a good defense. He doesn't have to throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. What he does need to do is throw for 3,800 yards, and he needs to throw for 25 to 30 touchdowns, and he can do that. How do I know that? He's already done it.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy. Gotta play.
Yeah, that's key. That's key.
Big one.
Truth, you know more than anybody. Truth, he's not staying healthy unless they got an offensive line.
No, not at all. Not at all. He's got to get over that injury bug thing, and I think an offensive line will help.
Yeah. Let's see. Regular. I'm just looking at some. Sam's got a couple of new areas. He's got hire new talent scouts. Yes, definitely doing that. Sam. Definitely. You're gonna have all new scouts. Judge could run a college. Yeah, of course you can run a college program. You might just go there. All right, let's get in the nitty gritty. All right, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Giants Guys. We're live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube. We got to talk about the general managers, right? Because that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. I'm going to give you a list of candidates, guys. There's a couple of them more that have dropped in late in the day, but I'm going to give you let's see. I'm going to give you the top 6 right now. All right. I'm going to ask you what you think of them. You could pass, or you could tell me what you think. Pass if you're not familiar with the guy. And Truth, I'm starting with you, and I'm going to start off with Poles from the Chiefs. And do you have a take on Poles, or do you want to pass?
I'm going to pass on him.
Okay. So Fresh, do you have a take on Poles from the Chiefs?
For the sake of not passing on him, I was going to pass on him, but they've built obviously a really successful team and a really talented roster in the last several years. He's seen an organization by their GM Veach and Andy Reid, and he's on the player personnel side, right? Is his title, or director of scouting or something? Or player personnel, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So,
does that bother you?
What's that?
Does that bother you?
Does what bother me?
That he's more of a scout player personnel?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I was just asking to confirm. Yeah, executive director of player personnel is his title. So I mean, a guy like that, it would be his first go at a GM job. I'd be okay with it. I like some of the others on the list better though.
All right. How about you, Zane? Oh, and by the way, Heisman Sigma is just basically, he's got no comment but pass. He's not even giving you commentary on polls. I will say that last week I was on the show with Lawrence Tynes. Lawrence Tynes is a great friend of the show. We've interviewed him a couple times. We've talked to him a lot. I'm sure, Truth, you've chatted with him a little bit. Fresh, you might even have chatted with him a little bit. Remember, Lawrence Tynes is a Kansas City guy. Before he was with the Giants, he kicked for the Chiefs. He has a home there. He lives there. His family's been raised there. He actually spoke very highly of Poles, and I really do like Lawrence's opinions. He's really, regardless of him being the kicker, he's a huge football guy, and he does know a lot of folks, and he was very high on Poles. But Zane, I'm going to throw Ozenfort to you. He's probably the guy on the list that I'm least familiar with. So I'm going to either give him to you or you're going to pass it to Truth.
Sure. So, he's doing a great job. First off, all the GM candidates right now are from good run organizations. So all the candidates are good candidates. He's coming from right now being with the Titans for, I believe, the past 2 years. 2020 is when he left the Pats. He was with the Pats for 15 years. I have a little New England fatigue right now with the Joe Judge experience. So you can't blame me for just kind of being in that middle thing. However, he's done a great job with Tennessee. Both candidates, I believe there's a secondary candidate also from Tennessee. Not on our list, but there is a secondary candidate as well. And he was Cowden, there we go. So he was also the director of college scouting for 6 years. So the experience is there. I definitely believe he knows what he's doing. He was part of getting Tannehill, ready and going as well. They know what they're doing out there. Tennessee, again, number 1 seed, right? After starting off, 3 and something, 1 and something? They're the number 1 seed. So they got something going when it comes to evaluation. I want a talent evaluator. Seems like he knows talent. That's a good place to start.
So Kevin Mack, of course, is a good friend of the show. He's busting in here with breaking news that the Giants just announced they want to interview Horitz from Baltimore. And listen,
Great name.
I was going to say, like, the Baltimore guys just know football. Harbaugh is a football guy. He's from a football family. Not only his brother John, but his father. Yeah, I mean, so, you know, if you're going to poach anyone, as Zane just mentioned, you know, poaching from the Ravens, the Titans, or the Chiefs are not a bad place to start. All right, so Truth, I'm giving you the I guess the easiest one, because you know Twitter tends to jump on the bandwagon a little bit, you know, on who they like because someone else likes them. But right now, in the minds of the Twitterverse, what do you call it from the Bills? Sean. Yeah.
Shane. I believe his name is pronounced Shane.
Is it Shane?
Yeah.
Not Sean? Okay. So Shane, he seems to be the front runner in most Twitter eyes. And of course, we're not real kind of talking head coach, but he would bring Dable, you know, with him as the head coach because he's the offensive coordinator. And by the way, for the record, Truth,
that's not a definite though. It's like maybe, right?
No, you know that's happening because, yeah, that's totally happening. Why wouldn't he come? He's going to get an increase in pay, become a head coach for the first time in the biggest market.
It makes sense. I just don't know. Who knows?
But do we know that's 100% Shane's guy? I guess that's the only thing, right? He might.
Yeah, we don't know that.
So we just know if it's 100% his guy. But I wouldn't mind it.
No, I will say this, just so Truth, before you jump into Shane at the Bills, Dable used to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and that's worth mentioning. Because here's the thing I want to put out there. If you take Mac Jones away from Alabama, they've had nothing but crap quarterbacks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Tua's not panning out, got his head coach fired, right? Jalen Hurts is not a good quarterback. Like, you know, and you can go on and on. Bama doesn't produce great quarterbacks. So, you know, tell me a little bit about Shane and what do you think about Dable? Because there is the rumor that they're a package.
Well, I didn't know that, but I actually do like Shane. He's a young guy, right? I think he's like 42 years old. So he fits in that little mold of a younger guy, a little bright, little new thinking in football. He's got a great history, turned the Buffalo Bills around. I think they had a losing season for over a decade, and he got in there, and I think they've been in the playoffs now 4 or 5 years or something like that. So, you know, he's got his hand in that. So I like him. I think he should be a top 3 candidate.
And you're okay with Dable coming in as the head coach?
I don't know much about him. What I've read. I don't think that's fair that there should be a package.
No.
That's like holding an organization hostage.
Well, I say that loosely. That
okay.
He would be the most likely if they're that friendly. You know what I mean? If they're close, it would make sense. I say that loosely. All right. So then the next guy on the list, of course.
I'm sorry. I'll just throw in for Shane one more time. He started out in I think it was Carolina as a ticket office employee, and he's worked. He's a grinder. He's worked himself up in 2000. He worked for Miami, and he worked under when Parcells was there. And
Parcells, he's a scout. Yep.
Parcells is a fan and has some good things to say about him. So I mean, it's always just nice when football guys tell you about other football guys.
It's funny you say that because I'm kind of shell shocked with that whole thing because Saban and Belichick both said Judge was better than McAdoo and Shermer, and look what we got.
That's the fatigue, right? There's that fatigue.
He might end up being a good coach. We don't know.
Not here though.
So the next guy on the list is a pretty cool individual. And the reason why I like him because he was an ex-player. If you're familiar, with Adrian Wilson, really cerebral, smart cat. You know what I mean? Like really, smart guy. Hey, what's up, Lil Rush? Look at that. Hey, that's my 13-year-old. Look, Lil Rush.
What up?
Appreciate you.
What's up, Lil
Salute.
Rush? So here's the deal. Adrian Wilson is the VP of Pro Scouting and Personnel for the Cardinals. We all know the Cardinals have done a real nice job with their roster, right? And they plugged you got a Chandler Jones and a JJ Watt, you got a Kyler Murray, you trade for Hop, right? And next thing you know, you got other guys that want to come play there. Adrian Wilson, is a pretty smart guy, was a smart player, great player. He's got a mold that he's looking for, right? He's got very high standards on, if I'm not mistaken, he might have even been a Rhodes Scholar. He was a really smart guy. But I know, he's thought of highly with the Cardinals. Fresh, do you have any take on Adrian Wilson at all? Or are you
hear nothing but great things, but he's been a scout just since 2015. I know he played the game. He's just a little inexperienced compared to his resume next to the other candidates here. I think he could be good, but again, it's like really you're talking about taking a chance. It's like really taking a chance.
Yeah, I think.
Champion.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, you're with that too, Truth. You think he's not quite ready yet?
Yeah, look at the other names out there. I think they have to try to get a little bit of a sure thing, and nothing's guaranteed. But
All right. Well, Truth. Then let's talk about someone that's near and dear to our hearts. Rand Karthon is the son of Maurice Cardon.
Oh.
And I've said this before on our show, people, if you're out there in, YouTube and Twitter world, the only fullback in the history of professional football to block
I know where he's going.
To block for four different running backs that, accumulated 1,000 yards or more is Maurice Cardon. Because the USFL is considered a professional football league in the 80s, and he blocked for Herschel Walker, Joe Morris, Rodney Hampton, and O.J. Anderson. He's the only fullback to ever do it. His son is the VP of Player Personnel for the 49ers, Ram Karthon. We love him, of course, because of how great of a player his dad was. Truth, do we really want to invest in the guy who's got ties to the Giants? Is that a problem?
No, there's no problem with that as long as he got credentials. I mean, I wish that we could bring some ex-Giants in who are still coaching and bring them into this organization and let these guys see what winning's all about. Because these guys, like we talked about Pepper Johnson and that I think that podcast with Lyndon Marshall. I don't understand why he has not gotten a look.
Yeah.
I don't get it. 5 Super Bowl rings.
And what he said, Truth, was Pepper Johnson, who's got 5 Super Bowl rings, and he's now the head coach at IMG. And if you're not familiar with IMG, it's basically a high school, that you send a private high school you send your kid to, and half the curriculum is sports, and you are basically coached by some of the best coaches in the world at IMG. And Pepper Johnson doesn't have a job, and he went down and got the head coaching job at IMG, and he's like the best program in the country, So everywhere Pepper Johnson goes, he wins. Jesse Armstead's another guy. Instead of just being a consultant, Leonard Marshall said to us on our interview that, man, he would love to coach up a bunch of guys. He wanted to mentor the linemen, the Leonard Williams, the Dexter Lawrences. He wanted to mentor these guys. So you would hope a guy like, Karthon, being the son of a player, maybe would have a little bit of interest in, bringing in next players. But my question to you, Zane, is Ram Karthon ready to be a GM of the New York Giants?
Well, I mean, the experience is there, right? I believe he started scouting for Atlanta. Then he was involved, if not the director of pro personnel for the Rams, before he came on to Niners. And again, as all these guys' names are coming up, look at what they're doing currently and what their teams are currently doing. The The 49ers through injuries, rookie quarterback, backup quarterback, Jimmy G getting hurt, George Kittle playing in and out, guys getting hurt. They're in the playoffs.
So look at Kevin Mack. He's got his finger on the pulse of everything here, Kev Mack. Karthon's also talking to the Bears, so is Shane. Yeah,
all these guys are in demand. All these guys are in demand because their teams are doing great. Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah.
Well, I think all these guys are looking for someone with tied to success, right? All right, so Fresh. This is a guy that I really like, and I have to kind of wear my heart on my sleeve here because I kind of.
He's my guy. He's my choice.
He's your choice.
He is. He's my number one option.
Because I saw one piece of tape on him, and I got all like gushy. I was like, I love this guy.
Unless never mind. I don't know if we're talking about the same guy. Okay.
All right. So Adam Peters.
Yeah, he's my number one option right now out of all these guys.
So Adam Peters is the assistant GM of the 49ers, and he did this YouTube piece on drafting Kittle. And
I know what you're talking about.
He was just saying they had done so much work on Kittle, and they realized that he was a 3rd round grade. But after doing the research on who needed what, they were positive he was going to fall on how it was going to shake out. Like they actually did the work in advance to say these are the players in this 3rd round that are going to be available and probably go to these teams. Now, there's a little bit of luck in there, right?
He was drafted in the 5th round, yeah.
And he was drafted in the 5th round. He dropped all the way to the 5th round. And he said, I would never do it again. He said, if I wanted a player in the 3rd round, I would have got him. He's like, because he was a 3rd round grade. He's like, but our numbers, our data science worked out. And the minute he started talking that way about how they analyzed them and they analyzed the other teams, I was like, this cat's good. And then somebody shot me, of course, a negative comment on Twitter saying, well, what else has he done? I'm like, he's like, so he drafted Kittle. What else has he done? He's like, even Gettleman drafted Andrew Thomas. And I said, time out. Andrew Thomas was a 1st round pick that you could have picked with your eyes closed. He got a 3rd round grade tight end, all pro, 2nd best tight end in the NFL in the 5th round. And then throw in the fact that he also drafted Bosa, Warner, and Debo. Okay.
Yeah, they have a loaded roster.
Yeah, the guy's done a good job. So, Truth, Fresh, why? Also, by the way, Adam Peters also came from the Broncos. Why do you like Peters so much, Fresh?
A couple things. I like him a lot. And when you look at organizations like the Chiefs, they have Andy Reid. He's been doing this a while. They have Brett Veach at GM, right? Like, people want Bieniemy to get a job, and he could be a great head coach. But, like, you have Mahomes and Andy Reid, an offensive-minded coach. Who gets the credit there? Like, the Chiefs organization, Reid's been doing this a long time. They got a great GM. Not a knock on those Chiefs candidates, but I'm thinking, like, same thing with Tennessee. Their GM is John Robinson. He's been doing this a while. He's super successful. So if you're splitting hairs and looking at the difference, what I think puts Peters as number one, John Lynch is their GM. What did he do before he got this job? Nothing.
He played football.
Exactly. He played football and he analyzed it. He was a first-year GM doing this, which means he's done a really good job of assembling a fantastic staff. But in terms of the evaluation of the players and the rosters, Peters had a big part of that. Also, he's not like some of these other candidates have been with one organization the whole time. So they've seen one way of doing things. Peters in the 2000s was with the Patriots. Then he was with the Broncos for a period of time. And now for the last several years, he's been with the Niners. So he's been around a lot of different minds. He's got an opportunity to see different buildings and facilities and the way that they operate. So for those reasons, he's my number one option on this list. But I will say I guess, which would supersede all of the GM candidates, would be if the Giants take a big swing and get Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh. In that scenario, I don't care who the GM is.
Are you really are you really infatuated with Harbaugh? What's the Harbaugh infatuation?
Yeah, I'm curious.
There seems to be two sides on Jim Harbaugh. Either
no, there's one side. He's a great football coach.
No, there's plenty of people that wouldn't touch him.
Why?
The only reason why they don't touch him is because he blows up everybody in the building around him. He's a great coach.
Well, that would be a problem, right?
He's not a great person.
Do you want to win football games though? I don't get it.
And
Like,
Peyton, you got to give up a draft pick to get Peyton.
Oh, I'd give up for Peyton. That's the one guy that we talk about. The one guy we talk
give
about.
up a first round pick?
Hell yeah, why not? We have two. Give me one. Give me something who's gonna fix it.
Yeah.
Sean Payton is a Giants guy that I want. He's a Giants guy I want back.
I like Peyton, but yeah, the hate on Harbaugh, I guess I see a lot of people dislike him. Is probably just a personality thing. But to say he's not a good football coach is just inaccurate. Everywhere he's went, he's won.
Absolutely. But do you think he could work in this media market?
Yeah, New York. That's a big difference.
Can he work here? That's an honest question. I don't know. You think he could work here?
I do.
I think you know what? You know what, Fresh? I'm gonna compare Jim Harbaugh. Thank you. Jim Harbaugh to Ryan Leaf. When Ryan Leaf, you remember Ryan Leaf?
Oh yeah.
So Ryan Leaf went to San Diego, right? And he could scream and yell at reporters, and he went crazy. If the Giants had drafted like a Ryan Leaf type of guy, he would have blown himself up. He would have never lasted. Like they're too impulsive, right? And Harbaugh is never going to be able to handle the New York media. You can't be a bully. They just keep coming back every day, right? So
yeah, but if you win,
oh yeah, but there's still going to be losses and there's still going to be bad days. Like, and if Harbaugh is not a good cat and doesn't know how to massage the people around him, they hate working for him. I don't know if New York is for him. Sean Payton, as I've told you guys from a really good source, that he's unhappy in New Orleans. It's kind of run its course, and there's some interest level, from Payton. Whoever the GM is, guys, like on this little list of people that I've talked to you about, the only way you're getting Sean Payton is if someone on this list has a relationship with him. You're not going to get a first-time Ryan Poles calling up Sean Payton and say, come work for me. Because Sean Payton is basically the GM. You know what I'm saying? So whoever is the GM would have to have a relationship already with Payton.
Yeah, I don't see that being a realistic option. It's just fun to think about because I would do that. That's all it was. Like Madden, I would do that. Give me Sean Payton. Realistically, it's not happening. Yeah.
But there is some rumors. The individual that I know is from Louisiana and kind of did mention that there's some potential unrest there. And I would be willing to give a pickup for him. But again, the GM would have to have a relationship with that guy because he's a football dude. Like he's a football cat. Truth. Do you not agree with that? Like the GM would have to actually have a relationship with Sean Payton already?
Or yes. John Mara's got to pick up the phone and call him.
We don't want John Mara involved, though.
Right.
Unless
it's to get Sean Payton. Yeah. Fresh is right. Unless it's to get Sean Payton. Do something right. If he's going to be involved, at least do it right.
Well, like Zane said, it ain't happening. So let's just move on. It's not going to happen.
You say it's not happening, and then it's going to happen, and you're going to be like, "How did you know?"
I'll eat crow, but I don't think it's happening.
The other candidates out there, which we haven't really talked about, is Dorsey and Pioli. I'm not a fan of. I'm sorry, Mike.
Dodd.
Oh yes, Dodd.
I thought kind of Dodd got pushed off to the back, but we could throw Dodd onto the fire.
Dorsey, they didn't request him though. I don't know why, but
yeah, I didn't hear that either. So I don't know.
What do you call it? Again, he could be tomorrow, could be Dodd, but not today, right?
But
so
far, Dorsey, I believe the Bears have requested Dodds.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is Heisman saying here? What do we got from Heisman? Says, curious as if you guys prefer a young GM, 40 or older GM, or just flat out credentials. No, you want a little bit mixture of both because the problem is that like credentials means I can go get like the oldest cat in the world and the game has passed him by, but he's got great credentials. You want a young guy that's willing to adapt, willingly to change, willingly to ask for help when necessary and not be so stubborn. You want, as Fresh said it perfectly, that that you've been in different buildings and you're still young. A guy that's 40 to 50 that's worked for 3 franchises is great compared to a guy who's 68. Okay. That guy's kind of set in his ways. He's not going to learn from anybody. He's kind of seen it and done it. You know what
I would be really happy with Pioli. He gets kind of a bad rap because like he's older, but he's 56. and I would be good with it.
Fresh, I'll tell you this, and I hate to say this because, again, Carl Banks is a friend of ours. He's great to us. We've interviewed him. He's always great to us. Carl interviewed Scott Pioli about a month ago. Fresh, I thought the interview was an abomination.
What do you mean?
Like, everything he said was just ass-kissy and like, oh, yeah, I can do that. I can do – like, it was phony. Like, it came across like, sure, I can adapt. Sure, I believe in analytics. Sure, I can do.
Who interviewed him?
Well, I'm sorry, Carl Banks.
Interviewed Pioli?
Yeah.
Like for what?
What do you mean? It was just he was interviewing.
Oh.
Like Carl was doing an interview like we interview football players.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it just came across as like campy and forced.
I didn't hear it. I didn't see it. Yeah.
It didn't float your boat. It didn't float your boat, did it?
Because you know why, Mike? It felt so forced. Like he's like, oh, analytics are great. Oh, I believe in them, and I'm like, come on, Scott.
Sounds like a guy who wants a job.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like.
100%.
I don't want that.
And I'm sure Scott Pioli's a good dude. 4 years ago, I was all before Gettleman. I wanted Pioli, but then I heard this interview, and I'm like, nah. He's not the guy. Hang on. Kevin Mack is saying that Frisco fans not happy about Peters interviewing. They want to promote Lynch to president. Wait, oh my goodness. And make Peters the GM so he doesn't leave. Wow.
That's a big news.
Kevin Mack is just bringing the heat today. All right, so Sam, your buddy Sam wants to know about Bieniemy. Look, there's twofold. He deserves a chance. My question is, why isn't he getting a chance? Is there a reason? Maybe he's a great football coach, but maybe he doesn't interview well. That's not a knock on his football skills. Or maybe Andy Reid just doesn't want to give him up. I don't know. Like he's a very good coach and people respond to him very well. So, excuse me, I'm not against a Bieniemy being the coach.
I think he just got into the cycle as of last season where he finally started getting interviews. So I think he's still on the up and up. And the major question we still hear is, whose offense is it? Is it Andy? Is it you? Are we going to take a chance? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be Andy? Which is a little bit unfair, but we don't know, right? Who's still calling the plays? Is he designing? Is he scheming? We're not fully sure yet. But with any head coach, I'm leaving it up to the GM. At this point,
he's also going to have his pick. He's going to go somewhere probably where it has a quarterback in place because like he's not in a rush to leave. It's not like his stock's going to go down as long as
his situation's great, right?
Is there.
His situation's great.
His time will come. His time will come.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is like look at McDaniels in New England. Like he seems pretty content that, you know, when Belichick,
I'll take him in a heartbeat.
You know, when Belichick, but Fresh, think about it. I think McDaniels
I don't want him
around for Belichick to resign, and I think Andy Reid being in his mid 60s, that if he resigns, Bieniemy takes over that job. So there could be a little bit of that in play. Kevin Mack, of course, bringing more heat here about Peters is linked to Flores. I don't know how that's possible, but I don't really I like Flores as a coach because he produced in the NFL. He's a guy that I don't love his resume, but what he did in Miami is way better than Judge did in New York. So
yeah, he's a better version of Judge. Good defense, bad offense.
All right, so then my question will be, Zane, is now that the head coach is out and that staff is pretty much probably going to be out, is Patrick Graham retained?
So, I mean, like you said, staff is voluntarily leaving, right? Before everyone gets fired, people are on their way out. We got people going to Florida. We got people going to Duke.
I'm glad Sale's going because he sucked.
Yeah. And who's the guy who just left to Duke from one of McDonald's boys? Because, again, they're all just boys, right? That's how the Giants run. Everybody's a friend or a family member.
Who went to Duke?
I can't remember which coach it was who just announced that they're out too.
Yeah.
I'll look it up in a minute.
Okay.
But shout out to Heisman Sigma real quick. Appreciate the question about the GM and the age and the credentials. A good one. As far as Patrick Graham's retention, last year Patrick Graham said, and I quote, "This is my dream job. I would not entertain anything else. I am so happy." less
He
than a
also
year
did.
later. Yeah, less than a year later. No, but I actually believed him. I actually believe there's people like that want certain spots, right? And he would be happy over time. Less
It's
than
not
a year
his
later,
choice.
I'll entertain head coach's spots. So I think when the GM comes in, if the GM is happy with how the defense is running as a pseudo 3-4, when it's really like a 2-4-5, and he's happy with the personnel and he lets Graham interview, it's possible to retain him. I think he's done a decent job, not as great as everyone thinks, a decent job. But if a GM's going to come and clean house, I don't see him sticking around.
I'm going with the fact that they kept Spags back in the day. I think they keep Patrick Graham. I think the players like playing for Patrick Graham. I think he stays if he wants to stay. Truth, what's your thought?
I agree with you. I think of all the coaches there, I think Patrick Graham is the one guy who will be retained, and he will stay. So I agree with you on that one.
I think it depends on who the coach is, really. I mean, the coach is going to make that
Well,
decision.
of course.
I will say the only caveat to Spags is, again, we're making this assumption, but we're hoping if John Mara is going to be hands off, if the GM really has full power. We've been in this cycle that I mentioned before, right? You kept Reese, but you got rid of Coughlin, right? Then you got rid of Reese and you got rid of McAdoo and you brought in Shermer and Gettleman, but you got rid of Shermer and you kept Gettleman. It's always keeping one side, forcing the other. If we're finally getting a clean slate, I don't think anyone's untouchable.
Yeah, of course not.
I agree.
No.
But I'll go on record saying, I don't like the bend, don't break defense, but I like Graham enough, and I know the players like him too, that it would be very hard for me to find a guy that I like better than Patrick Graham right now.
I'd love to keep him. I just don't know if he'll choose to stay or if the new regime says we want to keep you. But I personally would keep him.
Yeah, I think of all the coaches, like I said, he'll be the one that would stay because he's done the best out of a lot of the coaches. So,
all right, so guys, I'm going to do a quick speed round. You ready? Because we're getting to that point in the show where we started a little bit late.
Can I throw in one more name? Can I throw in one quick name? Now, no one's requested an interview. Don't think it's going to happen. Will McClay, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times.
It's been all over Twitter that Jerry will never let him leave.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, if you want to really
especially to the Giants.
If you want to screw the pooch, if you really want to screw the pooch, that's the move. But sorry,
they won't even grant an interview. I guarantee you that, Dallas.
Yeah, everybody loves that cat, Zane. Everybody loves that cat. And Jones is just like, nope, give him more money, give him a promotion, give him a bigger office. He's not going anywhere. All right, speed round, because we're 7 minutes over. We like to do an hour show. And then you can bop around internet, on YouTube and Twitter and find other crazy Giants. I think Christy Entertainer's got a Twitter space going. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. We're the Giants guys, powered by nygiantsrush.com. Always do me a favor. You guys are all good to me. Check out nygiantsrush.com there's tons of content up there. There's tons of interviews. We just did David Deal last month. This month we did Leonard Marshall. They're fantastic. We're known for our interviews. I think we do a good job there. We're going to do live draft shows through March and April. This is the speed round, gentlemen. I've got roughly 10 questions, and I'm going to just zip them around to you, and you guys are going to answer them for me. All right? Here we go. Fresh. What's the very first move for the new GM? When he sits down in his seat, the very first day, first move, what's he do?
Hire a head coach.
Hire what?
Coach.
Head coach, he said.
All right. Truth. Do you hire Chase Blackburn, who was recently let go from Carolina?
Well, we talked about ex-Giants, and you know what? I would entertain an interview with him. He's got a lot of fire. He's a winner. He'll put some energy in that team. Yeah, I would bring him in for an interview. Absolutely.
Let him coach the linebackers, maybe special teams.
Yeah, special teams. Right. Yeah, that's what he did in Carolina.
Yep. Okay. Zane, trade or keep Saquon Barkley?
He's under contract. I'm keeping him. 2 years removed from surgery, healthy. He's dynamic. I'm keeping him. Forget this trade stuff. You're not getting anything good from him. Keep him.
All right. Just so you know, in the chat here, in the comments, They're talking about New England, and that might have been a little bit of Mikey Fresh influence, but New England and the Bills are the rumor is that they're both teams are hot to trade for Barkley. I'm going to go back to you, Truth, here. Choice for backup QB.
Oh, I see the choices here. Marietta or Dalton. See, Marietta is a younger player. Dalton is a little more experienced, got a little more. I think he's a little bit better. I would say Dalton.
Okay, fair enough. Fresh. You got to make a choice between players here, okay? This one's painful. Martinez or Peppers?
Oh, that's easy.
Keeping.
Wait, hang on before you answer. Peppers' contract is up. He's a free agent. Blake Martinez is under contract for another year, but here's his numbers. He's a $14 million cap hit this year and only a $5 million dead cap number. If you do get rid of Blake Martinez, you got a huge hole at middle linebacker because Tate Crowder is not the right guy, so you may need 2 inside linebackers. And the last thing would be is if you keep Martinez, you can't have him at $14 million, so the Giants are going to have to add a year on.
Yeah, they'll restructure it or extend him.
Extend them, not restructure. Yeah, extend them another year to lower that $14 million. Which, by the way, Fresh, that makes sense because we know from Saquon Barkley, it does take a full year to a year and a half to be healthy. So Martinez is not going to be the same Martinez next year. Or re-sign and re-up Peppers. What do you do?
Yeah, I'm going Martinez.
Wow, that was like definitive. Like you didn't even blink.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I was kind of. I love Blake. You guys know I love Blake.
I think he could fit in any defense too, depending on what our coaches do. Peppers is a little bit more gimmicky. You got to be a little more creative to get the best out of him.
Yeah,
he's going to cost a lot of money.
Well, you might get a hometown discount because I do think he wants to stay home, but he might be
coming off an ACL. You never know. Coming off an ACL, players got to settle for the prove it deal.
Yep, and they're also talking about like Evan Ingram and Jabril Peppers going to the Jets.
Good luck.
Good for them.
Good luck.
Absolutely.
Because they don't want to leave New Jersey.
Yeah, good luck.
All right, Zane. One free agent signing. What's the position? What's the player? If you're gonna sign one guy, you only have enough for one free agent signing in 2022. Who is it? What position?
Laken Tomlinson, guard, San Francisco 49ers. Plug him in.
Got it.
I
got one. He's like 26.
28 or 29. He's either 28 or 29.
Go ahead, Truth. You got one you want?
Yeah, Alex Kappa from Tampa. He's 26. He already made under $1 million last year, and he had almost a 75 grading. So he can play both guard and tackle.
Also, good one. Good one.
I'm taking mine is you guys already know I've said it.
Yeah.
The guard from the Colts is the guy to get because he just blocked for the best back in the league.
Nelson, a free agent?
Yeah, he's a free agent.
He is?
And he's under.
No, not Nelson. Not Nelson.
No.
He's talking about the other guy.
No. He's the right guard. Why am I always forget this cat's name.
He's got a Polish name.
Yeah. There's a W in it somewhere. Hang on. Now I got to look it up now. And the guy's under $6 million fresh. He's so affordable, and he just blocked for the best running back in the league.
Well, if he's a free agent, how do you know he's under $6 million?
Because you just look at what you look at.
What he made this year.
What he made this year, yeah.
Gotcha.
Like he was.
So we all agree. Offensive line. If they're gonna make one free agent signing, offensive line makes a ton of sense.
Interior. I would go interior over.
That's what I think. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's Glowowski, and he would be the right guard. He would fit in for Hernandez, and like I said, he's tough. He's cheap. That's my guy. All right, Zane, veteran QB or Jones as the starter next year.
Jones is my starter under contract. Don't need a
bring in
QB in his place, but you still bring one in because his durability is in question.
Yes.
So if you brought in Mariota or Dalton, you'd still start Jones?
Oh yeah, he's still my starter. I'm not removing him. He's young. He's got talent. I'm not giving up on him. That's crazy. I think he's doable. Again, I believe he can be top 15, and that's good enough to start somewhere. And then for a backup, I'd look at a Teddy Bridgewater, perhaps. A pros pro could still be good. I like Bridgewater. I mean,
what's his money?
Listen, we all love Teddy Bridgewater, but he can't play on any team in any city for more than 7 games.
I would only need him for 3 games. That's how long Jones is usually out.
Yeah, there you go.
I need him for 3-4 games.
Yeah, it's so true because I really like Teddy too, but that guy can't stay healthy.
But a pros pro, Mariota, Dalton, Foles, Nick Foles. Don't forget, pros got experience.
Yep. Personnel guy went to Duke. Chad Kundler.
Yeah, there you go.
Hopping Hans and Pettit too. Yeah, that was the guy that went to Duke.
Yeah, Chris Pettit must go. Let's go.
Yep.
Get Chris Pettit out.
All right, I think that's all I have. Oh, okay. Fresh. If with your first pick, which is probably what, number 5 or number 6, right?
Number 5 and 7.
7.
Well, okay, so 5 is the first pick, right?
Yep.
If there's an edge and a lineman there, who do you want first, and then who do you want second?
Cool. I'm taking Neal if he's available.
You're taking him at 5.
I would really, really have to think about it though if Hutchinson is there somehow, but I don't think that Hutchinson will be there at 5. But you asked about edge.
So then, what do you take at 7? If there's if Thibodeau is there, do you take him at 7?
If he
over Lindenbaum,
he's not falling to 7. If he,
I know, but we're creating a fantasy.
If Hutchinson or Tibbs is there at 5, you have to think about it. But I like Neal if he's there, and Linderbaum at 7 if he's there.
He will be there at 7, Linderbaum.
Yeah.
And also, guys, just remember what happens every year. Every year, it doesn't. This isn't my
QBs,
opinion. Yeah. This isn't my opinion. This is a philosophy called shiny nickel syndrome. Okay, there will be 2 teams. I think me and Fresh and me and the Truth both talked about it. Either Denver, New Orleans, or Texas. Maybe even Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like someone's moving up to get Corral and Pickett.
What about Detroit? Is Detroit set on golf? I mean, they could pick right where they're sitting.
Yeah, but
they got 2 first-round picks, so they can go quarterback in their second first-round pick.
Correct. So I'm talking about somebody that wants to move up. Regardless, they did it with Haskins. They did it with Trubisky. They did it with Murray. A team will do it, which will push back Thibodeau, which will push back Hutchinson, which will push Neal back, at a minimum of 1 spot.
They're the first 2 picks of the draft, those 2 guys. I think. Hutchinson and Thibodeau. Hutchinson and Thibodeau, the first 2 picks in the draft.
Unless a quarterback team trades up.
Yeah, I think right now that New Orleans needs a QB. They're going to come for it.
I think they'll be out of their mind to go get a guy in first pick overall quarterback and make a trade and give up capital and do that. You can sit and wait for one.
But there's only 2 in the draft. The rest of them are bums.
But Pickett and Corral aren't that much of a gap between the other guys. They're okay. There's not a big gap where you say, "Oh my God, this guy's a real deal." They're not.
The point is that there's 5 teams that need quarterbacks, and it's how it is. These guys want
someone will overpay for one of them.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it.
It's the same thing that happens every year.
All right, that should be the first quarterback coming off the board. I think it's 6.
If we're lucky, Houston at 3 might have a quarterback issue too. Mills isn't the guy, and we don't know what's happening with Watson.
They might keep Mills.
Listen, me and Fresh talked about this today. You cannot, under any circumstances, go into camp with that as your only quarterback. They have to. Like, there's no other way around it. The Texans need to draft a quarterback. Like, unless they're signing Russell Wilson, you can't.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Don't take them out of sitting at 3 and picking. Don't take them out of their running to pick one of those 2 guys.
I hope they do, because I think they'd be crazy. They can wait till round 2 early and get a guy like Riddler or a guy like Strong.
Well, that's my hope too. My hope that they pick them early.
To have those guys not make it at the quarterback spot, because your franchise is in the hole. Like, It's just a philosophy of I need the best quarterback that's there to see if, as Zane said earlier, whether he's a stopgap guy to the next guy or we groom him. Like Pickett and Corral are going to go in the first 8 picks.
Yes, I agree with that. I think they're going 6 and 8.
Yeah,
Carolina and Atlanta, unless somebody trades.
Unless there's someone trading up.
The Texans are taking Pickett.
No, I don't.
At 3?
No.
At 3?
Yep.
All right. Wait. Hold it, Craig. I'll take over the writing here. Hold on. Let me write that down.
Unless you guys think, because Corral got hurt in the bowl game.
It's not serious. That's what I read.
No, but I don't know. I mean, there's no way that the Texans are not going to take a quarterback.
No,
where's their other pick?
Boy, you got something. Go ahead, Fresh. Go ahead, Fresh.
I'm with you, Stuart.
You know, when you're looking at this draft of position players, they are so much better. And when you talk about best player available and need, sometimes when you go for need too much, you burn your butt.
And it happens every year.
Well, listen, as a Giant fan, I hope they do. I hope Houston does go for quarterback at 3.
I'm with you guys on what should happen, but the reality is what? How many do we go through? Josh Rosen, Murray, Trubisky, Haskins. Like we can go through a laundry list of them. They all move a spot or 2 or 3 or 4. They just want to make sure they go into camp with the best quarterback possible. So they're all looking for the guy because Kenny Pickett may turn out to be, Derek Carr, and that would be just fine because Derek Carr is a top 10 QB, and that would be,
that's huge. Okay.
So
anything's possible, I guess. Everything's possible.
That's all. My point is that I don't know if they could gamble on not getting a quarterback. Like what happens if Corral and Pickett go to Denver and Atlanta, and then you don't got anybody. Now you're really changing your board.
I'd have to
think. Go ahead, Zane.
In the top 10 picks, at least 5 teams could go for a quarterback. At least 5 teams today can select a quarterback, and that's the hope that of those 5 teams, whether they come up or sit where they are, at least. Are 5
you including the Giants in that top 5? And those 5 teams? No.
Not yet.
So
you got Denver,
Atlanta,
Carolina, Houston, Detroit. They all need quarterbacks.
And did you say Denver?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Denver's at 9, right? They're picking 9?
Denver's at 9, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, at 9, Corral may be there at 9, but Pickett's going to go.
Well, Denver could leapfrog. Denver could leapfrog Atlanta, so Atlanta doesn't get Corral.
And guess who's sitting at 7 who could trade back a little bit and get some more capital?
That's right. And still get Lindenbaum. Still get Lindenbaum.
That right there is the truth. That's the truth.
Fresh. If you had a choice of Neal, Hutchinson, or Thibodeau, who are you taking?
I think I would probably take Hutchinson, but I just don't believe that we're gonna have that opportunity. That's why two of those guys will be gone.
All right, Zane. If you have a choice between Lindenbaum or Thibodeau, who are you taking?
At which pick?
At 5.
Oh, Thibodeau.
Yeah.
At 5, Thibodeau, 100%.
Drew, you're taking Thibodeau. You're taking Thibodeau over Neal.
Thibodeau over Neal at 5?
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you, yeah, I would, because I could get a pretty good tackle with the 7th pick, or I can get it in the first in the second round.
You take Hutchinson over Thibodeau, Michael?
No.
You would take Thibodeau over Hutchinson, or vice versa? Which of the ends?
Well, that's a good one because they both have. I watch these guys. I watch film on both of them, and they do have flaws. No one's perfect.
So
they're both quality.
For you, Truth. Here's a great question for you. Right now, with Leonard Williams right in the middle, probably playing either nose tackle or DE either, and Ojulari on the outside, who fits best to wreck that game between those two?
Well, it sounds like Thibodeau would be the guy. I would think. He's extremely. He goes sideline to sideline with the best of them, and he can move. I would say I would be a slight edge Thibodeau over Hutchinson.
Why?
It's a 3-4,
Just-
right?
Yeah, 3-4. That's just what I said.
3-4. Yeah.
Yeah, just what I said. I think he has more range. I think he can go sideline to sidelines, and I think he transitioned well in the NFL. I think Hudson's going to be a good player too. Don't get me wrong.
He's more of a J.J. Watt 4-3 type of a guy.
Yeah, I see that. But I tell you the truth, if we get the guy we like at number 5, I'd be open-minded to trade back at 7 if I get a right deal. If I get another second-round pick and possibly another late-round pick or something else, I don't think we're going to see the same trade we got last year. I don't see that.
The New York Giants have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds to actually win 8 games next year and compete on any level, which is a huge leap, right? Because of how much change they're going to have. The Giants have to come out with 4 out of 5 starters. 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. 4 of them have to start. 3 of them on the line, somewhere between guard, tackle, and center.
2 have to be studs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. But listen, the stranger things they don't have to all be in from the first 3 rounds. You can get a starter in day 3.
I know, but the percentage is so much smaller as it goes.
True.
I'm saying,
True.
I'm just looking at
Those first 5 picks are crucial, though, Michael. They got to have 2 studs and 5 starters.
Yep. I agree. So what's
It's
wrong
the
with trading back and get 6 picks in the top 3?
It's the most,
rounds.
yeah, but here's the thing. It's the most influential draft since Eli Manning for this franchise. You could say it might have been Barkley, but they blew it. Okay, we like Barkley, but, at 2, we could have gone a million different ways, and same thing with Evan Ingram passing up on Ramczyk. This is the draft where we don't pass up on talent. We don't try to stick a round peg in a square hole. We don't say, oh, well, that guy will be there. This is the draft, the most influential draft since Eli was drafted in 2004, where they go in, draft 5 guys. Whoop, can't see my hand. 5 guys in the first 3 rounds and potentially have 5 starters. And as Fresh said, 4 of them are studs.
Yeah, 2 have to be like otherworldly. The other guys could be like serviceable.
I said this to Fresh on the phone today, that in the 3rd round, Michael, they could literally draft one, and you know it because you're the draft guru. They could come away with the best tight end in college football. There's a couple of tight ends, and now you got the next Zach Ertz, or you got the next, whoever you want to put on there, the next George Kittle. Instead of waiting to draft a great tight end in the 5th round, there are 3 or 4 tight ends, a Notre Dame, Boston College kid, right in the 3rd round. With their last pick, that 5th pick, which is the 2nd pick of the 3rd round, should be a tight end. Anyway, a story for another day, folks. We've been on way too long. You're probably all asleep out there. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is another episode of the Giants Guys. NYGiantsRush.com. We're brought to you by Pickup. Go to NYGiantsRush.com and play the pickups. They're pickup props. Here's the thing. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. And when you accumulate points, we're sponsored by Fanatics, so you can win free gear. So just play the props, win the props, and get free gear. Everybody loves free gear, people. All right? Little Rush says, let's go. Well, yeah, let's go to bed, Little Rush. That's where you probably should be. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We love you guys. Peace out. We'll be back.
Appreciate everybody.
Draft show coming. Peace.
Peace.